So, April was a weird month in the hobby space. Games Workshop decided to nuke their 40k terrain range from orbit, with many pieces I'd planned on buying over the next 2 years or so no longer being available. I was a bit disappointed to find out when the Games Workshop website said that the orders for the terrain were going to be guaranteed until the 24th. What they meant is the products were guaranteed to be listed until the 24th. If they ran out of stock before then, you are out of luck. Oh well, lesson learned. Let's see what we got painted up in the Grimdark gamers household during the month of April. First up is my kill team of Legionnaires from the MacLeod box set, at least the first iteration of it anyway. I've completed 6 models which together form my shooting focused team. I absolutely plan on making use of the other models in the set and putting together a team for close combat, but generally speaking I'm not a huge fan of melee for elite teams. It's far too easy to lose wounds in close combat and elite teams don't really have enough models to waste on dying during their own activation because they're in melee. I've used this kill team once so far and it performed well. If I continue to enjoy how they play, I may make another Legionnaires team in the future, but convert it a bit and paint it maybe as a mix of legions to make it more of a bespoke force. For my first Legionnaires though, I wanted the new models to be able to fit into my existing Black Legion force for Warhammer 40,000. Speaking of Warhammer 40,000, the Tyranid Codex released recently and inspired me to revisit our Tyranids. First up of the Tyranids is an old metal Tyranid Hiveguard model, which would do some serious damage if thrown at someone because of how much it weighs. We bought this back in 2006 when I was a Games Workshop staffer as part of a huge Tyranid army, around half of which, I'm ashamed to say, is still on the sprue. Back then, painting technology wasn't quite what it is today, and painting a Tyranid army took what I can only describe as a traumatically long time. But now, I own an airbrush and contrast paints are a thing. I decided to revisit them so I can get to playing some larger games with the army. As part of painting the Tyranids, I managed to score a quick win by painting up 13 spore mines. I'm not sure why I had 13 as opposed to 12, I must have picked up an extra one somewhere, but painting these was simplicity itself, as the process mostly used contrast paint. Back when we bought these, each of these 3 types of spore mines had separate rules. Today, all spore mines have the same profile and just explode, whereas back in the day they had separate effects. The one that looks like a frag grenade with tentacles was the explodey kind, the one with the jellyfish head and nozzles sprayed acid using the flamer template, and from what I remember, I believe the final type was poisonous. I'm not sure about that last one as it's been a while, so if you remember, let me know in the comments. The true test for my new painting approach was seeing how quickly I could paint up 10 gargoyles. I'm happy to report that it took me about 3 days to paint all 10, whereas in the past it would have taken me between 1 and 2 weeks. Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that these are painted slightly differently from the box art. That's because we started this army back during 4th edition, where the Leviathan colour scheme was slightly different than today. The main difference being the guns today are painted red, as opposed to being the same colour as the rest of the creature's body. I've added some touches of red however as a nod to the updated colour scheme. Here's a photo of all 10 gargoyles flapping around the last remaining piece of Chalmeth terrain I had left to paint, which took up the remainder of my painting time in April. Jester had a pretty busy April. In our offline lives, she manages and runs a laboratory, which can mean sometimes things get pretty hectic for her and she's not able to hobby much. Still, she managed to get some models done for her Elder for 40k and kill team. First up, she painted this Shroud Runner for her Laytok army. Great looking models, although apparently a bit of a pain to paint. Models like this are much easier to paint as sub-assemblies, namely keeping the riders separate from the bike itself, but the manufacturing tolerances of this kit are so tight that the paint can scrape off when putting the riders back on. Something to be aware of and plan for. She also painted this metal swooping hawk who has had a feather green stuffed onto him to mark him as an Exarch, as we didn't get one when we first bought these models. Hobby veterans who are long in the tooth will remember the day when models from specialist units like this came in blister packs of 2, and the equivalent of squad sergeants were separate purchases. This model dates back to those fabled times. This month we also bought Jester some Harlequins. Followers of Kill Team will know that there was recently a rules release for them in a White Dwarf, and they look really fun. These are models Jester has always wanted, so we pulled the trigger on them. Unfortunately, with the riot of colours on them, they don't chroma key well for a video, so here's some photos that will be going up on our Instagram later. Here is Jester's Death Jester. I really like the job she's done here. I love how Harlequins look, but I'm not afraid to admit I simply don't have the patience needed to do the kind of paint job these sculpts deserve, and I love the final result she's been able to achieve here. Painting such an intricate design takes its time, but she was able to paint one more model in April, and that was the Harlequin Troopmaster. This is probably my favourite model of hers to date, as it came out really well. The colour scheme she has gone for is heavily inspired by album art from a relatively well-known 80s prog rock band who are still active to this day. If any older millennials or Gen Xers are watching this, you may have a higher chance of recognising the bands than our younger viewers, so sound off in the comments if you have any guesses. And that brings us to the end of April. In total we painted 35 models, which is not too bad considering how busy our month was. Before I compare that to our purchases to see if we managed to make any progress in slaying our Grey Mountain, I want to show something really cool. One of our subscribers, Dougie, was inspired by the last hobby log video to crack on with his backlog and shared his progress. Despite being busy with a house renovation, he managed to paint these Necron Immortals with really pleasing blue and orange accents, which is a colour combination I really like. He's also done something similar with this amazing looking Trigon. The Trigon is my favourite Tyranid creature, and the blue, purple and orange colour scheme works well. Those claws pop out really nicely from the rest of the model, and it'll be an absolute treat to see this across the table from me in a game. Also inspired by some of our Kill Team videos, he started painting his Octarius terrain, and while I don't have a high resolution picture of them, he's also currently painting up a squad of Custodes for his daughter so they can play games of Kill Team together. I love hearing stories about bringing the hobby to the next generation of gamers, so well done mate, cracking job. If anyone else has any similar stories or pictures that they would like to share, you can DM me via the Grimdark Gamers Instagram or Facebook pages, and I'll feature your photos in an upcoming video. For now, great job Dougie, let us know how your Kill Team games go with your daughter, and may her Custodes serve both her and the Emperor well. Getting back to our tally, our progress is offset by the miniatures that were bought this month. In total, when adding everything up, this comes to about 25 miniatures. This means we came ahead by 10 models this month, which is our best yet. I want to say this will be it for 40k for a while, as I really want to crack on with my Fallout backlog, but both the Chaos Knights and Chaos Space Marine codices are dropping soon, and the Dark Gods are calling. So until next time, death to the False Emperor.